faithfully sharing value, interpreting global great books. Hi, this is Sally with the Book Talk. Today, I'm diving into the book, What is Life for You? This book is a classic science masterpiece from the 20th century. Its author, Schrödinger, is one of the world's greatest scientists. Oh, Schrödinger isn't a Chinese person. His full name is Erwin Schrödinger. He's an Austrian physicist, one of quantum mechanics pioneers. His biggest claim to fame is creating quantum mechanics core equation. Wow. This equation's role in quantum mechanics is like Newton's laws in classical physics. In 1933, Schrödinger won the Nobel Prize in Physics for this. As a scientist, Schrödinger was driven by a belief in unifying different fields harmoniously. He wasn't just a physicist, he also pioneered molecular biology and wrote lyrical poetry. He saw science's unity as a giant net, capturing physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, even philosophy and ethics. Nothing missed. Only by weaving these separate fields into one cohesive whole does the universe's harmonious beauty shine through. In single quotation mark, what is life? Schrödinger aimed to merge physics and biology, using quantum mechanics to unlock life's genetic secrets. Japanese biologist Kondo Haruhisa said, "What is life?" did for molecular biology what Uncle Tom's Cabin did for the Civil War. Freeing slaves. As 201 ended, the atomic bomb's horror had folks wondering if quantum physics was a blessing or a curse. Against this backdrop, what is life? This book made a grand entrance. The book's cross-disciplinary view was revolutionary, giving lost physicists new hope in biology. The trio who discovered DNA's double helix were all spurred by this book. They ditched physics for uncharted biology and won the Nobel Prize. Nowadays, this book's a landmark in science communication. Up next, I'll break it down in two parts. One, the secrets of living beings. Secondly, Schrödinger's views on mind and consciousness. First, Schrödinger reveals the mysteries of living organisms at both atomic and genetic levels and explores the essence of life. Let's start by discussing the particles that make up life. Atoms. Schrödinger straightforwardly poses a question in the book. Why are atoms so small? We know the material world is made of countless atoms, the smallest particles in chemical reactions. Just how small are they? To put it this way, if you enlarged an atom to the size of a marble, your fist would have to be as big as the Earth. Even the diameter of a single cell in our body is 300,000 to 400,000 times larger than an atom. Atoms are so tiny, yet our bodies are so massive. Why did nature design it this way? You might say that only a large enough body can be complex enough. Then, our advanced brains and intricate organs couldn't achieve complex functions without vast numbers of tiny atoms supporting them. That's right, but classical physics goes further, suggesting that large numbers of atoms not only enable life's complexity, but also bring about its orderliness. According to the laws of thermal motion, all atoms are constantly undergoing random thermal motion. In other words, at the microscopic level, nature is chaotic. Only when enough atoms gather together does it show a degree of macroscopic order. Thus, order emerges, and the more atoms there are, the more evident the orderliness. In statistics, there's a simple square root law that can gauge the precision of this orderliness. For example, if an organism were made of 100 atoms, then the square root of 100, about 10 atoms, couldn't act in unison with the majority. In other words, this organism has a 10% error rate, which is fatal. It could die suddenly at any moment. But if an organism were made of 1,000,000 atoms, then the number of errant atoms would be the square root of 1,000,000. That is 1,000, reducing the error rate to 0.1%, greatly increasing stability. Oh, actually, a typical organism has 10,000 atoms, making the error almost negligible. Therefore, we don't need to worry about our bodies suddenly malfunctioning. Therefore, living organisms must contain a sufficient number of atoms. In other words, atoms must be small enough, while organisms must be large enough. This is the conclusion from traditional biology and classical physics. But hold on, here's the problem. The more biology advances, the more it seems off. Within living organisms, there exist extremely small clusters of atoms, so small they can't be described by statistical laws, yet they operate with high order. These unique clusters of atoms are the most important substance in genetic inheritance, genes. Next, let's discuss why genes can be inherited precisely and why mutations occur. How many atoms does a gene cluster contain? About 1,000, possibly even fewer. According to the square root error principle, for 1,000 atoms, the error rate could be as high as 3%. Doesn't that mean out of 100 people, 3 might experience a genetic mutation? Oh, for stable inheritance of a species' traits, this error rate would be disastrous. In reality, the opposite is true. Genetic stability is remarkably high, almost a miracle. Let's give an example. Archaeologists once discovered a 9,000-year-old human skeleton in Chester, England. Biologists extracted genetic fragments from it for analysis. Then they analyzed genetic fragments from local residents and found ancient human genes matched modern humans almost perfectly. A history teacher at a local school had genetic information almost identical to that skeleton. Today, we know gene replication's error rate is typically less than 1 in a billion. How did it achieve such astonishing precision? When this book was written in 1944, 10 years before DNA's molecular structure discovery, the physical nature of genes was still a mystery. Traditional concepts of material structure couldn't explain the mysteries of genes at all. But don't forget, Schrödinger's main expertise is quantum physics. This had nothing to do with life science originally, but he successfully used a quantum leap to explain gene replication's precision from a quantum mechanics perspective. Quantum mechanics studies the motion laws of microscopic particles. Within quantum mechanics, there's the Heitler-London bond theory. It posits that a type of chemical bond can connect tiny particles to form different material structures. Among these orderly substances are crystals. Schrödinger proposed that genes are ordered crystals, not chaotic blobs. So genes don't follow classical physics laws like thermal motion. And how do genes carry genetic information? Crystals we see in nature are usually periodic crystals. Their particles repeat in fixed patterns. For example, sodium chloride crystals form cubes, while water molecules freeze into hexagonal ice crystals. Although periodic crystals are highly ordered, they can't encode information. Because each repeating crystal is identical, like your floor tiles or wallpaper, a simple pattern describes the whole structure. Schrödinger believed there must be a different structure, more complex and stable, binding genes atoms to perform specific roles. Schrödinger called this new structure an aperiodic crystal. As the name suggests, this crystal lacks repetitive structure. Unlike tiles or wallpaper, it's like exquisite embroidery, unique designs instead of monotony. Genes exist in these ultra-stable aperiodic crystals. As precise as embroidery, this enables information encoding and miraculous genetic stability. Was Schrödinger's hypothesis correct? 10 years later, DNA's double helix structure was discovered. Genes reside on this molecular framework. It's a long-chain molecule with bases strong like beads. Exactly an aperiodic crystal, though not named as such. And as Schrödinger predicted, atoms in this structure don't undergo chaotic motion, but play distinct roles, operating with high order. Schrödinger summarized, classical physics creates order from disorder. Only large quantities yield organization. But life reveals a completely different mechanism. He proved order can come from order, a small, highly organized atomic group working coherently. This is the result of quantum mechanics at work. This assertion is not only correct today, but it's arguably one of the most prescient predictions in the entire history of science. We know that there's Schrödinger didn't stop there. We've just uncovered the mystery of genetic stability. But stability alone isn't enough. If genes were always 100% stable, life on Earth couldn't have evolved. Therefore, genes need mutation while maintaining stability. It's precisely genetic mutation that allowed microbes billions of years ago to evolve into today's vibrant, incredibly diverse biological world. Schrödinger, truly a master of quantum mechanics, found a breakthrough in quantum mechanics. He speculated that genetic mutation is due to quantum leap phenomena. First, let's explain what a quantum leap is. A key feature of the quantum world is discontinuity. In the macroscopic world, energy acquisition is always continuous. It's like going to a buffet. You can take as much as you want. No one cares how much you eat. But the quantum world is different. It's discontinuous, like a buffet turning into set meals. You either don't eat, or if you do, you have to eat a whole set. No leftovers allowed. When a microscopic particle absorbs a quantum of energy, it leaps from one state to another. Note it's a leap because there's no intermediate state. This phenomenon is called quantum leap. Now, let's look back at genetic mutation. Simply put, mutation is a sudden change in genes with no intermediate states, fitting perfectly with quantum leap characteristics. Earlier, we mentioned that genes reside in a very stable molecular structure. According to quantum mechanics, if the external environment provides a quantum of energy, it can cause a quantum leap, altering the molecular structure and transforming it into another form. This change affects the macroscopic genetic traits of life, meaning a mutation has occurred. But since energy in the quantum world is transferred in quanta, a certain dose is required. So in daily life, mutations are low probability events, which also ensures genetic stability. Mutation. While it drives species evolution, it also brings harm. For example, cancer is a type of mutation, and high energy rays like UV or X-rays can trigger quantum leaps in cells, increasing mutation rates. Experiments show that when fruit fly sperm is exposed to high doses of X-rays, gene mutation rates become 150 times higher than in normal germ cells. At this point, Schrödinger used quantum mechanics to complete his explanation of genetic mechanisms. Interestingly, historical tone was considered. Interestingly, modern genetics was established in 1900, and quantum theory was also discovered in 1900. The two theories emerged almost simultaneously, but it wasn't until both matured that Schrödinger keenly spotted their connection and merged them. After unraveling genetic secrets, Schrödinger posed the book's core question: what is the true essence of life? For this, most answers come from biology textbooks. We'd say life is metabolism, growth, reproduction, and so on. But Schrödinger broke this mold with a revolutionary view. Life's essence is absorbing order. Nature tends toward disorder. The second law of thermodynamics states entropy always increases in isolated systems. Entropy measures disorder. This law means everything trends toward chaos and disorder. Examples abound: aging, spilled water, unrecoverable, shattered mirrors, unmendable. All confirm entropy's truth. But life is an exception. Living organisms maintain high order with organs and cells working harmoniously. Once life ends, entropy takes over rapidly, decaying into disordered matter. What allows living beings to defy entropy? The key is entropy's law only applies to isolated systems, those without external energy or matter exchange. Life is open. It metabolizes, exchanging with its environment. But here's the crucial question: what's being exchanged? You'd say energy. Isn't eating and drinking about absorbing energy? Wrong. An adult organism's energy remains constant. A calorie inside equals one outside. Pure energy exchange isn't useful. So is it matter exchange? No. The elements in our bodies, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, are no different from common elements outside. Simply swapping matter doesn't directly benefit life. And what precious element in our food actually sustains life? The answer is negentropy, the opposite of entropy. While entropy means disorder, negentropy means order. Our living bodies constantly increase entropy. Every breath and action generates entropy, pushing us toward maximum entropy. That is death. To live, we must draw megentropy from our environment, absorbing order. From this view, we can re-examine nature's biosphere. The sun is an extremely low entropy entity, Earth's greatest negentropy source. Earth receives sunlight, converting low entropy light into high entropy infrared radiation sent back to space. In this process, plants absorb megentropy through photosynthesis. Higher animals gain megentropy by eating plants, while excreting disordered waste that carries away entropy. But these wastes retain residual negentropy for plants and microorganisms to absorb. Fundamentally, all life depends on drawing megentropy to survive. The entire biosphere is a negentropy transfer process. This is life's essence. Okay, that's Schrödinger's perspective on living organisms. But we're not done. Life isn't just bones and flesh. Consciousness is crucial too, covered in part 2. Schrödinger philosophized about consciousness. Peers considered him physics' most remarkable philosopher. Next, we'll interpret Schrödinger's views on consciousness. Speaking of consciousness, we immediately think of its counterpart, matter and consciousness. One represents objectivity, the other subjectivity, both independent, as most understand. But Schrödinger proposed this: consciousness should also be part of the objective world. He also believes there's a huge flaw in the scientific community. The scientific worldview leaves no space for human consciousness. Why did Schrödinger ponder this question? Schrödinger lived in an era when quantum mechanics was rapidly developing. Compared to the orderly classical physics, quantum mechanics is downright rebellious. It not only overturned people's understanding of the material world, but also reshaped thoughts on consciousness. Quantum mechanics found that microscopic particles are not only always hard to measure, but also exist in a superposition state. As long as you don't observe a particle, it can exist in countless states at once. Once you observe it, it instantly and randomly picks a definite state. These incredible phenomena have baffled many physicists. The Copenhagen school, represented by Bohr, believes human consciousness affects particle states, influencing the material world. Schrödinger wasn't in the same camp as them. In response, he proposed a famous thought experiment to refute this consciousness determinism. That is the renowned Schrödinger's cat. The experiment involves placing a cat in a sealed box with a small amount of radioactive material. Due to quantum superposition, there's a 50% chance the material decays, releasing poison gas to kill the cat, and a 50% chance it doesn't decay, leaving the cat alive. So the question arises, if the radioactive material is in a superposition of decayed and not decayed, then the cat is in a superposition of both dead and alive. How can a life be both dead and alive at once? Even more bizarrely, as long as no one opens the box, this superposition state persists. Once you open the box to observe the cat, it immediately chooses a definite state. According to the Copenhagen interpretation, just by looking, you decide whether the cat lives or dies. Schrödinger used this experiment to extend microscopic uncertainty to the macroscopic world. Human consciousness can actually determine the cat's fate. Does our consciousness possess some special energy? This is clearly impossible. Therefore, quantum mechanics compels us to re-examine our understanding of consciousness. Observation isn't the subjective act we imagine. It's actually an objective physical event. Simply put, observation means looking, but what exactly is looking? Common sense says we see whatever our gaze falls upon. This seems subjective, but it's not. Seeing an object means light hits its surface, and photons reflect onto our retinas. So the act of seeing isn't about emitting rays from our eyes. It's the eye acting as a signal receiver. It's a process of receiving light signals. Light is a microscopic particle. When we use light to observe another microscopic particle, photons strike it and bounce back to our eyes. This inevitably disturbs the particle, so observation affecting particle states is perfectly normal. In this sense, no observation is purely passive. Photons just affect macro objects less than microparticles. We overstate consciousness' role in quantum realms because we mistake looking for a purely subjective act. Schrödinger argued science wrongly excludes the perceiver from objective reality, calling acts like seeing conscious rather than scientific, creating a paradox. If consciousness were separate from the material world, colors, sounds, temperatures, so-called objective phenomena wouldn't exist. For example, if you ask what color is, I'd say there are no colors, only light of different wavelengths. What you call yellow light is just transverse electromagnetic waves around 590 nanometers. Similarly, sound doesn't exist. It's all vibrations. Nor does cold or heat, only thermal energy values. But vibrant colors, beautiful music, bodily warmth, we experience them tangibly. Shouldn't science include these? Though human senses can't reveal light's objective properties, sensation is our primary information source. We perceive color first, then discover light waves. Science builds on intricate sensory information. This information is initially gained through our direct perception. It can be said all scientific knowledge is built on sensation. There's no division between subjective and objective in consciousness and existence. Schrödinger stated, "I've been given only one world, not existence and perception separated." The barrier between subject and object actually doesn't exist at all. Therefore, the scientific attitude must be rebuilt to incorporate unavoidable consciousness phenomena into the scientific worldview. Finally, Schrödinger suggested Western science, rooted in objectivity, severs ties with perceivers and mental activities. It could draw nourishment from Eastern culture. Here, Schrödinger didn't specify which Eastern thoughts he favored. But personally, I believe Eastern philosophies like unity of heaven and humanity might solve Schrödinger's dilemma. Taoist philosophy proposes humans and nature are fundamentally connected. Their unity is life's highest ideal. Bringing this concept into science could restore a vivid, conscious world while maintaining rigor. Perhaps this is Schrödinger's ideal scientific vision. All right, that concludes What is Life? The book's core, Schrödinger ignited biology with quantum physics, sparks revolutionizing life sciences. Today, quantum biology pioneers cutting-edge science, especially in cancer breakthroughs. These achievements stem from Schrödinger's lifelong belief. Science's harmonious unity is the universe's greatest wisdom. All right, this What is Life? That's our interpretation. Reading notes below the audio. See you tomorrow.